Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you could tell by the title, yes, we will be talking about that winter storm. At this point, it is less than really 2 days away from kind of its peak intensity, so it's definitely already starting to show its impacts across the west. We have a lot of winter storm warnings, watches, winter weather advisories, hard freeze warnings, watches. I mean, everything associated with the winter storm is ongoing. We do also have a severe weather outbreak across the southern United States with a really a separate system. It's not directly tied to this winter storm. It's kind of tied with the pattern that's going to bring this winter storm, but I will be briefly going over that. So even though this video is titled about that winter storm, the first couple of minutes I will be talking about the severe weather that is occurring and what to expect. And then if you want to just skip to the winter storm, skip a few minutes ahead, I will be talking about, again, the snow, where it will be falling the heaviest, which models, where the differences still are, because the models still don't 100% agree on where the heaviest will fall. But at this point, again, it is far more accurate than it would have been obviously a few days ago. So it is definitely good to see that the models are starting to come into that sudden agreement as they usually do. Okay, before we get into this, I do want to say that if you guys are enjoying this channel, obviously if you're new, check out the channel first, watch the video, see if you enjoy this stuff. If you do, consider subscribing. Again, don't subscribe just because I told you so. And if you actually do enjoy it, subscribe. And same thing with liking the video. If you do enjoy it, please do so. It helps out a lot. And if you have any comments, concerns, leave them down below. I get to as many as I can usually. Okay, so first off, as I mentioned, I kind of want to go over what's happening across the south. The severe weather. There is actually, for those that really are familiar with the Storm Prediction Center, it's a center that gives out different risks on a scale of 1 to 5, how bad a certain day may be in severe weather. And today they issued a moderate, which is a 4 out of 5. So it's pretty much as close as it can be without going to the highest level. And obviously, notice that right now there hasn't been much yet, but it's really starting to explode. And it has been ever since around 4 or 5 o'clock. So yes, it's not really occurring during the, if you will, the peak daytime heating, but it doesn't have to. This system has so much atmospheric, if you will, atmospheric support that it can occur whenever it wants. And in this case, yes, it's going to be more into the overnight hours, this threat, and that's unfortunate. If there are tornadoes, that's obviously a bad thing, as they're harder to spot and whatnot. People are sleeping, so even for just hail or whatnot, it's harder to get people kind of warned, right? Notice we have a large thunderstorm headed right towards Oklahoma City, pushing towards, right now it is really, as we push this, you can see we do have many, obviously, urban areas getting impacted by this, but it's only a matter of time before it hits the metro. In terms of any severe warnings, I'm sure there are plenty. Yes, you do see that there is a large tornado watch. Tornado watch, and there are a few severe thunderstorm warnings and a few tornado warnings. And obviously this one does have a radar indicated, so it's not confirmed, but you're not going to wait till it's confirmed or not. It's going to be a silly thing to do if you have a tornado that's right in front of your house, and then you realize it's confirmed, but you don't want to be the one confirming that, especially with your life, okay? And it's as serious as it is, a tornado. So truly, just again, folks, this is something dangerous if you live especially across the Oklahoma area, Arkansas, into southern Missouri. I do want to show you the Storm Prediction Center. It does have the heaviest across central Oklahoma, the threat, right? Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Norman, but it will be affecting areas like Dallas, Fort Worth with a slightly, less less great risk of severe weather. But again, that doesn't mean that a tornado can't occur outside of that red area, right? It's the highest probability, but, that's assuming that they're right. They could also be a bit wrong, and, this could be a bit further towards the south in reality, or a bit further towards the north, the heaviest, right? So, and in terms of the heaviest, I mean kind of the greatest for severe weather risk, which is really tornado, wind, or hail. And not to mention the rain, right? There will be quite a bit of it. So categorical, you can see the tornado really, it's pretty high across Oklahoma. You don't really want to see those colors. It's actually also decently high across portions of Minnesota, which is where another system is really taking its toll as well. And in terms of wind, also very high, honestly, that's very significant. That's the wind threat. Again, that's a bit later on, if you will, a bit It's actually overlapping with the tornado threat pretty well. So again, it's just with those supercells, there could be very strong wind, and the hail threat you could see is a bit towards back, especially towards Oklahoma, the southeastern side, southwestern, as that's where the cells originate and they're the strongest, and hail cores are usually the biggest kind of right when that thunderstorm forms, and that's pretty much ongoing right now as I'm recording this video, and probably will be already past this area once I upload this. But yes, a very significant event going on, so that is definitely something I want to make sure I addressed. And yes, this is all those watches and warnings associated with that. Let's take a look at what the models show with this. So I do want to say that, again, in the near future, this will be moving out, right? This won't be a multi-day severe weather event across one area. It will be, you know, pretty quick to move its butt across the Oklahoma area. And you can see that, again, this is 7, which is when I'm recording this video, 8, and the time's right here for those wondering. 9, 10, 11, you can see we have a strong line. It won't be severe, all of it, right, but especially towards Oklahoma, right by that low pressure, and into, again, reaching areas like Dallas, Fort Worth. There could be a significant wind threat and also some hail and some isolated tornadoes as well. And notice that once this kind of occurs, if you will, right, the overnight hours pass. Tomorrow, the severe threat is much more weaker as it pushes into Illinois and Missouri. Definitely a heavy rain threat, right, and the thunderstorms could still have a powerful lightning threat and whatnot. It's just not a severe thunderstorm, which, again, is 55-mile-per-hour wind or greater. I think it's 3/4 hours hail or greater, size hail, an inch. So, you know, it's still a regular thunderstorm. It's scary enough, but we could see that by Monday it's moving across many of the Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin area, and again, thunderstorms, rain, all going through, and it does weaken eventually that low pressure. However, we're not done with the severe weather just yet, and the next threat of severe weather does come directly correlated with that winter storm, not as indirectly as this first one. And I want to show you that the Storm Prediction Center, again, it does this daily. So this is just for today, or the 12-hour, 24-hour kind of given period. This is for Monday, which is tomorrow. Again, that's still that first system that we're dealing with today. You could see the threat is not as big. It's slight, so that's still pretty good of a threat for severe weather that far to the north, you know, into the UP, given that it's October. Not unheard of, but it's there. And then Tuesday, you could see it's enhanced. So with the day 3 already being enhanced, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a moderate issued again for some of these areas with that giant winter storm that we have potentially going to occur, you know, going to occur across, again, the Wyoming, Montana area. And I shouldn't say potentially. At this point, it seems rather likely. And for that, I want to take a look at the models and start kind of digesting this system. I do want to show you the GFS and the Canadian first, kind of the global models, and the European. And then if I have time, I could show you some of the high-res models, which again could portray some of that severe weather threat. Again, there's our system, our severe weather system. But look across the northwest, we do have some of those bluish colors and greenish colors, again, representing precipitation. Really by tomorrow in the morning, really over the overnight hours today, we see an explosion of precipitation across Idaho and Nevada and Utah. We're really just pushing into Utah as we get towards the day on Monday, but definitely a very heavy snow event, and that's, again, more of a cold front. But as this pushes forward, what we see is this kind of weaken, but it becomes more broad, and it spills into Wyoming, Idaho, Utah. You can see this is at this point 1 a.m. Monday, 7 p.m., 1 a.m., right? This is now Tuesday, 7 a.m. So Tuesday morning, you can see it's snowing across much of Utah, still Idaho, into now Wyoming, Montana, Colorado. And look, this system, while it doesn't look significant, look how much precipitation it drags up within 1 p.m. Tuesday, looking like a measly event. Look, by 7 p.m., right? By 1 a.m., look at that. I mean, it just explodes, a complete explosion. And right there, the models don't really do a good job of presenting this, but during that phase of explosion, if you will, there will be some severe weather threat. And according to the Storm Prediction Center, it is pretty nasty. So, again, I wouldn't be surprised. This system has a ton of vigor. And look what the GFS does. It continues that snow across Wyoming. It intensifies this as the low pressure intensifies. There could be some isolated blizzard conditions here, if not widespread blizzard conditions in this kind of section of this storm, because of how strong the winds are. Earlier on, not as much because it's not as well developed of a system, but here it really gets well developed. And look, the latest GFS model shows this system spreading snow into the into more of the Nebraska Panhandle, more of the Black Hills, kind of western South Dakota, and even potentially into western really western North Dakota, which you can see right there is really just a little bit of it, but it's there. And that system does have a lot of rain into Iowa, Missouri, Oklahoma, and obviously a lot of wind, lots of rain on the wet side, if you will. And notice that that system does really take a sweet old time. We do still have some lingering showers, snow showers across the west, which again kind of add on to more of that snow accumulation. And look, we have another system with quite a bit of precipitation coming into the central United States right after that. But I want to take a look at this because look, what the GFS shows is it shows a massive hurricane in the Pacific, takes it over the land, right? So it destroys it pretty much, but it takes that precipitation and develops a storm out of it. So it's just probably going to be really, really significant to wet weather. But I think it's just interesting. Not really related to that winter storm, but it kind of drags on with that winter storm's cold front, if you could see right there. In terms of snowfall, quite a bit of snow. Obviously, that's been a story, and you can see that there will be amounts over, 1 to 2, potentially even 3 feet in the highest of the highest locations. Generally, though, more of a 4 to 8 inch event across much of the mid to kind of lower elevations, and in the lowest elevations of valleys, just a 1 to 4 inch event. Still, though, you can see the Black Hills potentially seeing their first major snowfall in the double digits, but easily, and again, some of that snow extending into the panhandles of Nebraska and western North Dakota and South Dakota. I do want to say that in terms of total accumulated precipitation, this is including kind of that snow and the rainfall, and you can see it's a lot across the Dakotas. It's quite a bit in terms of snowfall once you melt that down, that rain. So this is good news, right? You'd want some of that rain, and hopefully, it's not too big of a event where it, the snow causes too big of an issue, but in the long terms, this is good. It's been pretty dry, but unfortunately with harvesting and whatnot going on, to such a big snowstorm really isn't the best ideal scenario. It would be better if it was, in more like in November, not October, with all their activities. And that includes North Dakota, South Dakota, even with that rain bogging down the soils. Regardless, again, Mother Nature, I guess, doesn't care, unfortunately, but notice Kansas, Missouri, there's a stripe of very heavy rain, and that's again because not only that severe weather system we have going on today, but also that winter storm. Once it develops its cold front into, that would be more of the Wednesday, Thursday time frame, and potentially that hurricane that drags its moisture again across these similar areas. So a belt of very heavy rain across a good central portion of the country, so that would be also something to watch. Now, that's just one model. Let's take a look at the Canadian. So let's just take a look at its precipitation total. You can see it's definitely showing similar things. It shows the heavy rain here, but it's more broad. It shows a lot more rain into eastern Nebraska, into western Iowa. It's not as much of a conveyor belt. There definitely are pockets of heavy rain here, and it favors this area, but it's more broad. It's spread out across a larger area. So I guess that's good. A lot of areas could pick up some rain, just as long as it's not too much. Notice there's our event today. You can see the Canadian really shows when this will be peaking, which is again an overnight threat, which makes it unfortunate. As it pushes into Illinois, Wisconsin, it does weaken significantly, but it does bring some much needed rain for many, so that is more of a good thing, and a severe weather threat should be rather limited, but again, a slight risk is still issued. There's our winter storm. Starts off as a cold front really late today into Monday and into Tuesday. It expands, develops snow across Utah, Wyoming. So this model Canadian does agree with the GFS. It does explode that system again late Tuesday, which is when that severe weather threat will be. And look, very strong winds, and this model too drags some of that snow into western Nebraska, western South Dakota, and North Dakota. So that is definitely something that the GFS has kind of agreed with on the Canadian, especially in the last few runs. And then there's our cold front of that winter storm. You could see much more weaker, and the Canadian doesn't really have that hurricane tagging along, but it does bring another little snowy event right there, which could actually bring some snow into Denver. You can see right there, it brings snow almost into extreme western Kansas. Not a big winter storm or really even a snowstorm, just a little disturbance right there, which we'll have to watch for. And also the other thing is that the cold, there will be many locations seeing their first freezes and watches because of that snowpack that's enhanced from that winter storm. Cold air has an easy time staying and forming over snow, so you can see it's pretty expansive, some of that cold air after that system, and you could just see a comparison. This is what we've been seeing so far, right? Nothing extraordinary, just a higher elevation, seeing that the chill. But then once that storm system passes, look at all of that. I mean, it's pretty much statewide. Just maybe the Salt Lake area, just staying a bit warmer. But yeah, definitely a cool down and a change into winter for the west, and even areas east. We do see more seasonable temperatures, which is probably more appropriate. The Canadian even introduces some frosts, which again at this time of the year, the 17th, 18th is average for these locations. So nothing too extraordinary, just something that still might catch people off guard as it's been such a warm season. Now, the last model I want to show you, sorry, I didn't even show you the total snowfall accumulations for this Canadian. It's really similar to the GFS. It does show a bit more across Wyoming and southern Montana, and it does drag out just a bit more across the Dakotas. Again, it shows decent snow across really much of Colorado, Utah, and this snow, that's kind of from that second system. So we'll have to watch that one. It could be interesting for many lower elevation areas. And I did show you that precipitation outlook for the Canadian already, but I'll show you it again. Again, more of a broad area of heavy rain, which is a really good thing for many that need it. European model, you can see there's our severe thunderstorm risk. There's our cold front, our winter storm. They're kind of occurring simultaneously. This one weakens again by tomorrow, late Monday into early Tuesday. Then we have that winter storm. It is only intensifying, brings lots of snow, lots of rain, and once it does intensify, European very well shows that severe weather threat into late Tuesday overnight. Again, it seems like more of an overnight threat as well. The atmospheric conditions don't really, need that daytime heating in order to create still a very bad event. And look right there, lots of rain, and it too develops a very strong area of heavy snow, possibly blizzard conditions across the Black Hills of South Dakota into the extreme panhandle of Nebraska, the extreme western portion of it, I should say. It does bring rain into much of the Midwest, and it does, according to this model, tag along some sort of precipitation from the Pacific, which you could see right there, and it kind of attaches itself, and it does again attach itself to that cold front, and it does bring a bit of rain, but again, not as expansive as what the GFS shows. There's our little snow system that the Canadian shows, and maybe out of that something develops. We'll have to wait and see. But by that time, that winter storm is pretty much all dissolved into just a broad upper area of low pressure, and that does bring some rain. That second one into the northeast. So again, it seems like the pattern will remain relatively active, but there could be a large period, especially along the end of the medium range, where it just kind of quiets down, and you could see that's a pretty quiet pattern. So in terms of total snowfall from the European model, probably the most trusted weather model across many meteorologists, and you could see that, well, it shows quite a bit, right? Like the other models, 19, 20 inches in the highest elevations, and the more moderate amounts, I would say 8 to 12 right there, and the lowest probably a 1 to 5 inch event. Look at that right there across the Black Hills, 28, maybe even 3 feet of snow, which again is possible with such a juiced up, if you will, winter storm. And yeah, you can see right there. There could be some amounts reaching over 30 inches. Surface, let's take a look at the total accumulated rainfall. So it's just snow and rain. And notice, yes, there will be areas that see a lot, especially across Oklahoma, potentially Kansas, and the Texas area. So yeah, definitely be careful for that, because this model only shows, and all the models I just showed you show broad areas of rain where it may be the heaviest, but there will be localized amounts, especially with such juiced up thunderstorms where there could be 4 to 5 inches or even 6, and that's going to cause flooding, whether you like it or not, unfortunately. So definitely something that we'll have to watch for. And look, we already have that line starting to explode right there into Texas. Definitely powerful storms, and they are, they're definitely moving. They're definitely moving along. So I noticed the northeast also potentially picking up some rain with that second system. The northwest staying relatively active. Let's take a look at the National Weather Service weather map. As I mentioned, lots of warnings, lots of advisories. Look at all of Wyoming. Yellowstone has winter storm warnings for it. Again, mostly I think 8 to 12, but 12 to 18 inches for the higher elevations. You could see 6 to 12 with even higher totals above the tree line, which is basically where trees stop going because it's just a bit too low on oxygen, so it's pretty darn far to the north in terms of altitude. Buffalo, this is in Wyoming, not in New York, and you can see that this is their daily forecast. I just clicked on a random location, but look, 3 to 7, 5 to 9, 1 to 3. It's definitely a heavy snow event, and it will be the biggest one of the year so far, right? probably not in the future, but so far. And so yeah, a lot of activity, and again, lots of hard freeze watches, warnings. Even if you don't see snow, you'll see cool temperatures. And I do want to show you also some of the weather models on this website. This is just, again, the 50 ensembles that I showed you earlier on, just to decide whether or not this will actually occur. At this point, it just shows us that, you know, every single model agrees relatively on the placement of the snow, the general placement, though you can see that there are some differences. Like this one's still more aggressive compared to this one or this one. There are some differences, but again, relatively kind of centering it around these given areas, the highest amounts. But again, it does extend into southern Colorado and Utah with that snow. I do want to show you a really cool model I haven't showed you in a while. It's really just a model that shows what the National Weather Service thinks will fall. So let's take a look at the snowfall, and this is the National Weather Service forecast. And again, this isn't usually accurate very far out, because the National Weather Service adjusts its forecast quite a bit when it's, you know, 48 hours versus 24 versus 12. So I would say it's the most accurate for, say, Montana, Idaho, the areas that are first gonna be seeing that snowfall. And you can see there's quite a bit already, with some even green totals across those elevations right there, which would be, again, over 30 inches of snow, but Yellowstone potentially picking up 15, 17. And again, I think that there will be much higher amounts across these areas, except the National Weather Service doesn't have enough confidence what to put for these areas, which they usually do. And you could see that several hours ago, which they update this every hour, it was different, right? There was not much at all in this area, and it was just more across these areas because that's where they were more confident. Now you can see they're slowly starting to adding on right there, the Black Hills. They've added on a heavy amount of snow because they think there will be a lot, and I guarantee you it won't be just 15. Probably tomorrow, if you were to look at this, it will be up in the 20s or 30s forecast. So yes, it's a good model, but again, it does have its downfalls. And I do want to quickly take a glance. Let me see how long I've been recording this. It's a pretty long video already. Darn it. But let me show you some of the high-res models in terms of their snowfall, because why not? It's still very cool to see what they show. Again, these are like the more accurate high-res models. Some of them, like the NAM, usually have a cold bias, so that's why it's a bit aggressive with these amounts. Though it does paint it across higher elevations, so honestly, that isn't, you know, that uncalled for if there's such amounts do occur. This is a NAM 3KM. It's a high-res model. Yeah, some locations picking up extraordinary amounts of snow with this, according to this model, which again probably is on the higher end for many locations, but you could see, yeah, quite an event. Let's take a look at a few more. FE3 high res, again, only goes out to 60 hours, so it doesn't really show the full length of the system, especially across these areas, but already a lot of snow, and this is what the radar looks like at this given time. And one more model, let's take a look at the Canadian high res model, which goes out to 84 hours, so it shows us the whole length of the system. And the total snowfall amounts, again, are rather high. So thank you guys so much for watching. That will be it for today. See ya. Bye.